doctorate, a doctoral degree is a postgraduate academic degree awarded by universities and some educational institutions. And the name was derived from the Latin formalism, which is referred to as the essential docent, that is licensed to teach, and that is the origin of some people who are trying to say, oh, if you don't have a PhD, you have no business teaching in the university. It is also, it is the highest degree that a student in university can get in most fields, except for law and medicine. And it originated in the 19th century. Like I said, is it MD or JD? That's MD, that is a Doctor of Medicine, or JD, Doctor of Justice, Justice. That is the one that's done by the law. Except for these two professions, right from the beginning, there has also been reservation about the role of a PhD in these two fields. For example, like I said, that the PhD refers substantial original contribution of new knowledge through research. And nobody will ask a medical student or a law student to make a discovery in order to get his or her degree. What is a PhD program? Typically involves students conducting independent and original research in a field and then produce a publication, that is a thesis. Some include thought component, that is the PhD students they are assessed on quality and originality and argument presented in their thesis, in addition to thought component. The historical perspective is that in 1884, in 1150, that's according to a publication by Alan Noble in 1994. The doctorate philosophy, the PhD developed in Germany as a terminal teacher credential in the 17th century. And PhD gained importance in Europe, in European university during the 13th and 14th century. In Germany, it was the first university that that produced the first PhD thesis was called Humboldt University. Later, I think it changed to the University of Berlin, and it's the first modern research university that began a PhD thesis. In UK, Republic of Ireland, are most common Commonwealth countries. In UK, the first university is Princeton University, who presented the first PhD in 1721, Harvard in 1780, and so on and so forth. The focus of research is it's problem focused, and it's unique in that you are addressing new knowledge with probably established methodology. You are also the application of existing theories to new problems. So the critical thing about PhD is that 1, you are generating new knowledge. 2, you are disseminating knowledge. You are applying new skills, and you are bringing innovation in a knowledge-based economy. So what's up? Oh, okay. not moving. Yeah, it's not moving. Can I come on? Is it from here? No, but it's not moving. The slides are not. Initially, it is an academic qualification. However, with the evolution of things now, narrative is changing with the belief that applying PhD knowledge and acquired skills can be used to solve society problems and contribute to economy. Traditionally, PhDs were structured such that a candidate, after acquiring PhD skill, it is in the process of his academic journey through supervision, participation in conferences, workshops, seminars, that they now further contribute to academia and solve societal problems. So this has brought a major criticism to even the doctorate, the PhD certificate. And the criticism is against this is the poor impact of the degree. It's been raised that we need to build competencies in PhD graduates beyond their academic career so that they'll be able to solve problems for industry and society at large. The reason, according to Mark Taylor, which is the author who published on Reform the PhD System or Closing Down, the reason that PhD studies are a waste of resources because they train people who over-specialize with little or no generic or transferable skills to address industry problems beyond academia. That has changed now, and that's why you see industries now coming to train some PhD in specific skills and competencies. They get their PhD and they go back to the industry and they are useful for the industry. So PhD must go beyond credential, but need to build competencies. Reform in PhD, the European idea that has prepared the doctorate for academic and non-academic employment, build transferable skills of graduates, and institutionalize career development. Achieving critical mass through this interdisciplinary, institutional, and intersectorial collaboration is the focus of the PhD curriculum now. What are the subtle differences between the academic and professional degrees? One, professional doctorate research begins with what is known and applies that knowledge to new problems, while academic doctorate, on the other hand, begin with a problem and attempt to create new theories to address it. So you see that the professional doctoral degrees are more concrete in terms of addressing solutions to the contemporary problems of the society. What are the modes? The implementation method may be physical, as probably you are doing, to distance learning or virtual. Now candidates can be virtually supervised. Then the methods of training, it depends. These are the issues we just talked a little about earlier. That it could be coursework, it could be strict research. In places where it is coursework, some insist that you must have a master's before you progress to PhD. While in some places where it is just research, you just keep doing your research and then you write your thesis and you pass your PhD thesis. But a master's is not a condition in those places. Method of deliverables, thesis only, or thesis with research publication, and as we have said earlier, and the timing can be full time, which is 3 to 4 years, and then part-time, which is about 4 to 8 years. The PhD by thesis is what you, I think you are doing hybrid, with what you have said earlier. It's the most common before now, that you just write a PhD thesis, which is between 60 to 100,000 words in length, and then you submit it, you do an exam, defend the thesis, and then you are offered a PhD. However, in order to well, what you said earlier was that to make people gain from the PhD thesis as part of publication. But for me, it is also actually putting more credibility to the thesis itself. If you say, get publication from the thesis, and then you can now come and defend the thesis. This route involves submitting previously published work, such as books, book chapters, journal articles, and then together form a coherent body of work. And then you just select things. It's the same thing for those who are in clinical practices. By the time maybe let's assume that somebody had major publications, maybe in terms of transfusion in surgery, in terms of outcome of surgical interventions for perforated typhoid, for laparotomy, for many of these things. If you write a film and you have about 5-6 publications that address a theme, you really can sit down and use it to write a doctoral thesis, which is also acceptable. Generally, okay, yes, they said generally a minimum of 5 to 8 publish articles are required, but it varies from one institution to the other. Your institution, I've talked about 3. I think we've talked about between 3 and 4 also. We've talked about between 3 and 4 also. Example of PhD program, the way you can do it as an integrated PhD, in which you are right in the institution, you spent a 4-year qualification, and then you go ahead. While you also can do it as a professional. This is geared primarily towards professionals in vocational sectors. I mean, this is what probably applies to the person who's talking about the busy schedule of a clinician. And it's not just a clinician. Healthcare engineering, manufacturing, this type of doctorate includes a significant thought component and a smaller research project. Professional doctorates are often taken on a part-time basis and can last between 2 to 8 years. Online PhDs by distance learning, offered by course providers such as Open University, and they have a good option to consider for those that have family and work commitment or an international students. This is an example of a structure of a PhD program in which you do a complete advanced coursework for 1 year. At times the coursework will end up as a master's, or you just select the basic essentials that are needed for a researcher: grant writing, proposal writing, basic statistics, basic publication writing, and things like that for 1 year. And then from there you may do an exam or not, and then after that you develop your proposal based on what you want to write. Once the proposal is developed and is approved by the ethics board, then the next thing is getting your samples and then accumulating your data. Once you finish accumulating your data, the next thing is statistical analysis, and then writing up your results and discussion, and that's the end of the thesis. What's the rationale for a PhD curriculum? A curriculum is a standard-based sequence of planned experiences where the student practice and achieve proficiency in content and applied explaining skill. It is defined as a sophisticated blend of educational strategies, course content, and is for both the student, who is the learner, and the supervisor. The two of them, they have to understand the curriculum and be sure that this is the end point and this is the minimum criteria for what we are doing. In any case, this is also what, all of this is what will add quality to the output of your thesis. Because it's not just that you want to produce the thesis alone. The thesis must be able to compete and you must be able to publish it. It must be able to serve as basis for future researches also to progress. Curriculum mapping can help both educators and learners by displaying key elements of the curriculum and the relationship between them. Learners will identify what, when, how, and why they will learn, how you're going to carry out your study, how you're going to write it, and visualize their role, and also the role of their supervisor. The major issues to consider in curriculum development for a PhD is: 1, the expected learning outcome. You want to produce a thesis. You also want to develop competencies in research methodology and research practice. Curriculum content, our area of expertise. Assessment of your work as it goes, and assessment of the thesis. Then the learning opportunities, the location where you want to do the things, the resources that you need, and then the sequence of timing. This is the timing you need for proposal writing. This is the timing you need for approval and ethics and ethical board. This is the timing you need for data gathering, and this is the relative time that you have set for result writing and discussion. And then you now, in many universities, you do what they call post-field and pre-field. The pre-field is more like you are presenting your proposal to the department. So it's good when you have many people who listen. They can bring their own ideas, they can criticize your statistics, they can criticize your methods and methodology ideas, things like that. Take all the criticism, add it to your final proposal before you submit to the ethics board. After you have collected your data and you are writing the results and discussion, before you sit for the examination itself, they also insist on what they call post-field presentation in the department. It's usually coordinated by the departmental academic board, who will give a date where usually everybody in the department, the head of the department, the professors in the department, they will come. You're going to present your PhD, your findings, and then they are going to bring all sorts of input. This is what you put in your discussion. This is what you do. This is what you do. These are the elements of a discussion. Elements of a discussion is: 1, you discuss your results that you have found, and you criticize your methodology yourself. So it is one thing we also try to shy away from, even when we write publication, and then we make the reviewer emphasize that we are not aware of it. At times, because of that, some publications are rejected. So, but it's good to say that nobody is going to present a methodology that is infallible in its totality. But it is good to say, I mean, the kind of thing, one of the things that have been raised in one project that I've done before was, why did I use indoor cooking? Indoor cooking is peculiar to my environment. Female cigarette smoking is not as profound as at the time I did that study. Now, probably more females smoke than males in Nigeria. It's possible. But as at the time, but you have to say why you are. It is also part of the innovations you are bringing into your researches, into your researches. So why did you bring that? And it was raised and it was explained and it was accepted. So, in some of those, particularly in that study, some people who did it in Europe, what they emphasized and what they used was the number of cigarette sticks smoked by mothers in a day and its impact on the development of otitis media and upper respiratory tract infection. But that is not an issue that is going to be, it's not a major issue. It wasn't at the time. So, and what, given the low socioeconomic status and the local community where I did it, I mean, some people have 5-6 children in the same room. They have only one room, husband and wife. That's where they cook. That's where they do everything. So it's just for me to see how that is. So we need to, in your discussion, you have to raise all of these issues and let whoever is reviewing your work do that. I'm aware these are the issues. So that's it. We're not going to present. You are not going to present your methodology as if nothing is wrong with this methodology and nothing can ever be wrong with this methodology. These are all the issues we want to consider. So the PhD curriculum requirements, depending on which side you belong. If you say advanced coursework or research. If it's advanced coursework, graduate level coursework that explores a number of advanced subtopics, I've raised some of those subtopics that could be included. At times, the capacity to do recruitment, it may require some extra training, especially if you are veering into an area that has not been quite popular and you are not familiar with before. I mean, when I was doing the present work I'm doing on genetics of deafness exposed me to issues about how you recruit families into studies. So it's different if you want to if you just want to recruit your subject. But it's another issue if you want to recruit your subject and you want to recruit families. So now you have to be proficient in drawing pedigrees, and some of those things. Comprehensive exam, an exam to test the knowledge in the field. That is about post-field. That's about post-field. At times you may do a post-field and people may sit down in that post-field and raise that this data is important. Since you have not completed the work, go back to the field, identify your subject, and ask for this data to add to your study. It's good to listen at that point because you can still rescue many things. One, it will enrich your thesis. Number two, if it enriches your thesis, it also makes the probability of publication in high index journal very possible, and it also makes your chance of using that same study to do many more things in the future. So uh, we have to be sincere with ourselves. Dissertation is an original body of research that contributes to knowledge. So when all of this, you have taken all of this into consideration, then now writing your thesis. If you want to write your thesis, it's just advisable you look at one or two or three similar theses, maybe in that department or your colleagues or things like that, and then you look at basically the whole thing about thesis is about writing introduction, writing methodology, writing literature review, results section, and discussion, and then the other things, references, and as you may want to put it, acknowledgement and things like that. The general approaches to curriculum, PhD curriculum development. One, it could be spices, like as reported by Adin, and it could also be prism, as others have also reported. Spices is that one is the student center, with students assuming responsibility for their own study. This requires that the students owns everything. I mean, this is the kind of thing you actually see abroad, that when you come and you say you want to do PhD, nobody is supervising you like you are supervising a master's student. It is assumed that if you are coming, that you want to do a PhD, you have done a master's. A master's is like you have mastered research, you have mastered scientific research. So it's not when you now come for PhD, we'll be teaching you about basic statistics, basic survey, or no. Nobody's going to do that. And then your study must be problem based. Your study must be, for the sake of the future of your work, also it must be problem based. It must be problem based. As much as possible, avoid what has been done before and even if you want to do what has been done before, your methodology must be clear, your instruments must be clear. I mean, you may study the outcome of surgery, the outcome of surgery in the outcome of cancer surgery, but the person who did it before, who just did a clinical staging using TNM or whatever, is different from you who is coming now to evaluate your cancer with CT scan, with MRI, with PET scan, and some other molecular biologic studies. So if anybody hears, okay, his assessment or why, no. So the study is not about so it must be problem based. And then when people talk about integrated teaching, to make a PhD student complete, it is good for the person to know that I am deficient in this, I'm deficient in this, I'm deficient in this. I mean, if you're a clinician and your study is in basic medical sciences, you may have to go and learn how to now do dissection of rats, dissection of pigs, dogs, if those are the things you want to use for your study. Community oriented. The goal of the president to ultimately work and serve the community, and then elective study period, and then systematic approaches. That is moving away from the apprenticeship method. You know, I've told you, if you come for PhD now, nobody is allowing you to follow him, and then you are learning basically. You are coming to be the master of the work itself. You are the one choosing the topic, you are the one saying, your supervisor is just coming in, usually in advisory capacity, this is what to do, this is what to do, this, why don't you add this, why don't you add this, why don't you add that. That's the hardest proposal. So in the curriculum method adapted from that is the student in the center, and what we are looking at the staff that are going to support the student, the time frame that is going to complete the work, the resources available. The resources available include equipment, include the supervisor itself. Location, where are you going to do your study? And then the opportunities that you can have, before you that can aid in study. Do you have opportunity of using a grant? Do you have opportunity of using another person's laboratories and things like that? Then the outcome of your study, content of your thesis, and then the assessment. So in the PRISM model, so it's product focused. This is usually as a curriculum emphasize application to clinical work and practice based. It includes acquisition of professional behavior, application of method, and feedback from patients. This is about the PhD calculations, and then its relevance to the community and students, the interprofessional. It must have a culture of multi-professional and disciplinary learning, like I've said earlier about the quality of the work. Smaller class sizes and shorter courses, and then multi-site, and then symbiotic relationship between the various stakeholders. Now, like we earlier talked about the biggest criticism of a PhD. If people are super specializing and there's no competence, then what will be their relevance? So now a structured competency-based PhD curriculum framework is the order of the day, and this is led by the United States and Australia SQUAD. And this is where the companies and where the industries are really in charge of some of these doctorate systems to build people's competencies and then so steps to develop competency base. Core competency development. I want to teach you want to know metabolomics, you want to know genomics and things like that. You want to map the core competencies into the courses, into the graduate courses for the PhD student, and then the course structure development, and then competency assessment framework, and then attach credit value determination to those competencies. Identification of core competencies. Core competencies in program should align with both industry and academic expectations. It's a process by which they are developed, being explicit and transparent. So these are some people will do PhD, and you find out that some of the core competencies were actually done by the assistants. And so the guy just finished the PhD as statistical analysis, the immunohistochemical method, biologic methods. Many of these things are things that we should learn ourselves. And then you know that as you are coming out of your PhD program, you also can lead another person to another PhD program, even in the absence of whoever. So mapping the core competencies is a process used in education to align courses, assessment, and objective and the learning objective. Then we develop development of competency-based assessment. This is the example, the framework for competency-based PhD program for different countries. This is the Zambia example, which used for clinicians. They do coursework and then do coursework assessment and research project. For the others, they do pre-doctoral work, thesis, and then defend their thesis. Pre-doctoral work, coursework and thesis, and then defense. But the third model is what is used for professionals, and clinicians are included in this category. So it's the same. timeline for full-time PhD. So year one is confirmation of research program, annual progress review the second year. Is once you, if you follow this, you are in actual fact, the final outcome, the final output of your research thesis shouldn't be too difficult. If per year, this year we recruited 500, we planned that we were going to recruit 2,000, but these are the reasons why we could not recruit this. Once you have documented all of this, they will also go into your final thesis and it becomes rich and full and practical. So whoever is reading your thesis knows this is not just theory. This is not just theory. So, and they also know that this work was done. This work was done. So then after that, by end of year 3, you are submitting your reviews, and then they are nominating examiner for you, and then after, by year 4, you write up and submit your final thesis, and then after that you do your exam. It's the same thing that has been written. It's just that this is for clinicians, and they're just trying to differentiate here between people who have MD and MD PhD. You know, in the United States, you see some people with MD PhD, and what usually happens is that they are medical students who, in the year 1 and 2, they have done lab rotations in the area where they want to do their PhD, and they've done most of the lab works to get the data. So they go back by year 3 and 4 to join their colleagues, and they continue their clinical rotation. So by year, and then as they go also, they keep writing their thesis. So by year 6, they finish MBBS and then continue their PhD work, and by year 7, 8, they submit the thesis, and the thesis is defended. So it's the same thing: medical school, graduate school, and clinical rotations. So this is the research rotations. So first 2 years, medical school curriculum, research lab rotation, step 1 exam, and then year 3 and 4 PhD course and research, complete and defend dissertation, and then the last 2 years, complete medical school, pass step 2 of the graduate exam. So that's the PhD. So the person ends up with MD, PhD. So implementation plan for your curriculum. Once your curriculum is written complete, you already have decided what route you want to take. Is it by exam? Is it by coursework? Who qualifies to do what number of years? What is the role of the department? What's the role of head of department, and things like that, the supervisor. The next thing is you get an approval for this, and then put your infrastructure in place. Infrastructure is wide and wide. Part of your infrastructure is your laboratories. If you have a multidisciplinary research lab, everybody can use it. All you need is just to coordinate it such that there won't be frictions, and then the human nature and interpersonal weaknesses will not impact negatively on the functioning of the laboratories. And so, because if you have a central research lab or a multidisciplinary research lab, it's cost effective. Electricity, you can control, staffing, you can control, and then even the laboratory equipment you also can control. So that It's unlike if you have somebody is doing PhD in anatomy, is using this lab. Somebody is doing PhD in surgical biology, is using this lab. But if you have one lab, all you need is just to be able to coordinate. Create a chairman or a director for that lab who coordinates everything. You also have a committee to see to the running of the lab. So the manpower, academic, non-academic, and then funding. There's nothing we can talk at the end of the day. Approval, we talk about funding. Approval process for PhD curriculum, this will depend on, it depends on universities, but it will come basically from department to faculty, postgraduate college, and then finally Senate. And finally Senate for the final approval. The infrastructures we've talked about earlier. This has been divided into four, has been stratified into four. Institutional policies and structures, which include cost policies, governance, ethics committee, the PhD program evaluation committee, and funding. And then the research environment and infrastructure, which include the student supervisor ratio. When you get there, you're going to get to this. You are not in this one. You are not in this one. Supervisor qualification. Who are the supervisors who qualify? What do they need to have to qualify? For I'm not sure. It's an argument I don't believe in, that if you don't have a PhD, you can't supervise a PhD. If you don't have MD, you can't supervise MD. There are people who have been accomplished in terms of research that they can't supervise those things because they are eminent researchers and they don't have some of these doctoral certificate that we're talking about. The student experience, induction, student welfare appeals, development of research and professional skills, and then mapping out a career pathway. So the doctoral life cycle, advertising, applications, like supervision, monitoring, and assessment. At the end of the day, you want to be assessed, and then you want to say you have defended your so the infrastructures, dedicated mentor, excellent research infrastructure, collaborative research structure, culture, and structured program. These are the things you need for a successful curriculum implementation. So we just blow out the individuals here. Manpower, laboratory space, shared instrumentation. We need to accept the concept of shared instrumentation, because already we have identified that there are problems with funding. So there's no point keeping one equipment in one department and then sitting on it and nobody will use it. When the same equipment is useful for. So why not just put it in a place where it is central, everybody can access it, and it's useful for everybody. Funding, we stated earlier, the scholarship and fellowships are that many, and it's going on. Bursary, some project specific funding. The important thing is research grant, research fellowships, which can fund PhD programs or MD programs. To say that we're going to fund it from personal pockets is going to be difficult, and it's also going to be because the quality of what we're doing also is not really strong. So factors influencing PhD stipend amounts, academic disciplines, geographical location, university, what you pay, what you pay as school fees and things like that, or further. So it depends on where you find yourself. It depends on where you are working. If you are working, if your work is being funded on a big research grant in which you are also a researcher, you're going to get a lot of money compared to if you are just paying school fees and you're the one struggling to fund the program. So also, if you are doing a study that has a very strong market demand, IT now and things like that, so now maybe I put genomics, molecular biology and things like that. You are putting and then at times for the study you are doing, already there's funding availability. Maybe your university is interested in that, international grant available. So implementation strategy involve governance, teaching and supervision, and then evaluation. The evaluation ends up with examination for the MPhil or PhD. So these are the things. So the governance structure, the board of governors, the doctoral award committee, the academic board, and then the graduate school. And then you also, I've told you earlier that you need a strong academic planning committee, and also academic quality enhancement committee, and then research and innovation committee, and the faculty board. All of these will constitute the governance structure for the PhD, and they all have their different roles to play. Some of them is invitation of external examiners, and then they identify this external examiner is qualified, this one is not qualified, who can come at what point, then and so on and so forth. The research and innovation committee, you can see the University Research Ethics Subcommittee, Research Degree Subcommittee, Human Tissue Management Subcommittee. All of these, they come under the governance of your PhD curriculum, because it's PhD today. What you are doing may not be so much, but tomorrow somebody is going to come and is going to start using human tissue and things like that. So, and all of this will have to be regulated by the governance made available for the in the curriculum. So, teaching and supervision of a PhD student. One, the student has to be supervised, has to be coached, and it has to be mentored. And the three of them are not the same thing. Supervision is specific. You are being supervised on completion of this project. Coaching is a more holistic thing. It's holistic and is temporary. But mentoring is the issue. It's hierarchical, long-term, probably broadly focused, often informal. You just get a mentor gets a mentee because I think because the two of them, they just click. So you can accept my deficiency without complaining. I can accept your deficiency without complaining, and I show you the way professionally, also in terms of some even aspect of personal life and things. So that is what mentoring. That's what mentoring is about. It does not mean that you behave exactly the same way, but it just shows that you mutually benefit yourself. The mentor has something to gain, and then also the mentee has something to gain. Although if it's the balance shifts to the side of the mentee, who probably gains more than from the mentor. So interaction between faculty and PhD students, mentorship, mentoring, and then a typical PhD journey. First phase, that's writing the thesis, attending doctoral course classes, selecting and reading literature. If you really want to pick your thesis, how do you pick thesis? You first have to read, keep reading, and see what has been done in this environment, what has not been done, given what is available, what can I do, what can I not do. These are the things, and a good literature search will help you in this. In addition to that, is you attend seminars, you attend grant writing workshops, and give you experiences about what to do. Planning a PhD or defining research strategies and defining research milestones. These are all the things that you'll be guided at that point. And then you build research tools. What do I need for my study? What do I need for my study? I need pregnant women in their third trimester. They're going to have children. I want to follow up these children for 1 year. So where will I get them? Is the teaching hospital enough? Do we have enough pregnant women in third trimester in my hospital, or do I have to include some secondary hospital, a general hospital, or a local government hospital, as it were, in order to get my the sample size that I want? If they now have the babies, and I have to start seeing the babies first 6 weeks, and then seeing the babies monthly or 2 monthly or 3 monthly for 1 year, what are my strategies for seeing them? These are all the things that go into the topic that you are going to choose to investigate. So these are the issues. And then, so from that, the second phase: collecting data processing, writing results, reading literature, and writing papers. I mean, of course, you continue to read literature, because when you are writing your proposal, at times between writing proposal and then submitting the final test, maybe up to 5 years. So some of those literatures you use when you're writing proposal might have been outdated. Some things might have been, I mean, you can imagine people doing PhD on infectious disease who started in 2017, and they've not finished by 2019. By 2020, already COVID has come, and people have changed. So the way the issues you have to be up to date in your literature. So then once you have done that and you have done your department, if you do I think you need to be strong about the department, and the committees must be so considered that even if the supervisor is doing party with the candidate, if the departments have been so considered that must be so considered that when the candidate is presenting for post field, if the department, if that sitting says it is adjudged pass, go ahead to defend, then the external examiner, the quality is such that the external examiner cannot say no failed candidate. That's the kind of things we should ensure. We've had a situation in the University of Ghana before. They sent a thesis to an external examiner. You know, the thesis would have been said, he would have assessed, and then submit to postgraduate school, before eventually the postgraduate school will invite the candidate to choose a date, constitute the examining board, and then invite the candidate. So this person, the external examiner, did not get an invitation, and he had assessed the thesis and he scored the thesis excellent. So the man said he is an old man. He had to drive down to the University of Ghana postgraduate school to ask about that thesis. He said, because I want to be sure that what I have assessed as excellent, the second external examiner that you have sent it to did not assess it as poor. I want to know why you have not invited me for the final examination of this candidate. And when you go to the postgraduate school, you find out that it's just because of administrative issues that the thing is being delayed. That we're just planning to invite you maybe in the next 2-3 weeks. So you must have that kind of assessment method. I know, because also at any point in the future, your PhD thesis will also be evidence of the research activity going on in your university. You will add to even the rating of your university. So you must ensure that. So examples of impact of supervision of PhD candidates. So if you look at this person said that among finding revealed that leadership, helping, understanding, and responsibility relationship between supervisors and PhD students were positively associated with PhD students' satisfaction with supervisory style, while the uncertain, dissatisfied, and admonishing types of relationship were negatively associated with PhD student satisfaction. The strict relationship did not negatively affect PhD students' satisfaction with their supervisors. It's just to show the kind of relationship that could go on between supervisor and the student, and how this can impact on the work. This person also, the PhD supervisor student relationship. Both interaction developed over years and players involve PhD students. The intricacy of the supervisor-student relationship may be in part comparable to the one between physician and his or her patient. Both interaction developed over several years, and the players involved in each relationship, that's supervisor-student on the one hand and physician-patient on the other hand, may at some point develop different expectations of one another and experience emotional stress. So, what motivates supervisor and student relationship? Motivation hierarchy, innate interest. Some supervisors just want to supervise and ensure that they have quality work and contribute to people's progress. Benevolent interest. Some is because of what they have to contribute. Instrumental, once you start something, you have to finish it. Then regulation, intrinsic, work is as far as the integrated assimilate work. So these are just the different motivation between students, between supervisor and student. All of these, your curriculum will address it. Otherwise, at the point, you're going to get to the point where some students will accuse supervisor of using their work. That has happened before, and I guess it still happens. Well, also it happens even for masters. Somebody will say he wrote a master's thesis, and then after some time, the candidate or the supervisor will extract from the thesis, make a publication without including the name of the other person. Either the supervisor did not include the name of the student, or the student did not include the name of the supervisor, or did not appropriately place the person. He is a student, he did all the work, he probably owns the work, and then you probably just make him a second or third or fourth author, when ideally he should be the first author. At times also the student who is the owner of the work, who did it with the supervisor, at times use the expertise of the supervisor and things like that. He wrote the work, published it, and did not acknowledge the supervisor and did not include the supervisor in the author's list. At times they put the supervisor in the author's list, At times, he puts his supervisor in the offices, but he put some people who did not contribute as much before the supervisor, and the supervisor just feel. And these are issues that have generated all sorts of things. I mean, it's even generated some journals recalling some publications. So these are all the issues so in conclusion, a PhD or doctoral program has evolved over the years in scope, content, curriculum, and particularly in clinically related courses. Curriculum development, designs, and methods vary with different outputs and outcomes. Graduates of PhD or doctorate degrees in clinical science have additional benefit over and above their peers. This is the benefit that we all must keep in focus to be able to overcome the present inertia that we have. At the end of the day, a person who has fellowship, who is a clinical consultant, is better off with an additional doctorate, either MD or PhD, compared to his peers who has only fellowship. There are some grants or funding announcements that comes specific. The grantee must have a doctoral degree. There are some like that. So, because they know what they are doing, they know what they are saying. They know what they are saying. So there are some like that. And there are some the criteria for application usually will be many. Parties, you must have a doctoral. Parties, you must have certain number of publications in the last 5 years in PubMed indexed journal. Part is you must have done A or B or C. So these are all the issues. Graduates who successfully pass a PhD get a solid foundation to excel in research-based roles. That's absolutely. Graduates in clinical science have capacity and skills to attract cutting-edge medical intervention and innovation. This is true. All we need is just the capacity to just write this thing up into a doctoral thesis. There are pains that accompany integration of doctorate degree in clinical practice. There's no doubt in that. But the pain has a lot of gains also. It's high time that African citadel of learning begin to integrate doctorate program into its curriculum. We all will benefit for it. Students, the staff, the institution, because it improves your granting capacity. And for every grant that you win, the institution has a percentage it takes. And if you take this percentage round, and then the institution can independently start acquiring equipment in spite of whatever support they are getting from the government. So that is why everybody has something to gain from it. So I thank you for listening, and I will wait for us to interact on this call. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing these insights on the various